No, 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 no. We don't want to record. Oh, live stream, yeah. Okay. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivaradhari. Gopijana Balaba Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamana Tira Vanachari. Jamana Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Sisi Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Go Pramanandi Hari Hari Bo. Panjakapa Turubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangolangayate girim yakrapatam aham vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanitananda Shadvaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, when we were giving classes previously, I think it was months ago, it's been a few months, right? We haven't done any classes. And we were talking about separation from Srila Prabhupada. That began in November because of Prabhupada's disappearance day. So we just continued. And so I think we cover that topic quite well. But what I thought we should do now is talk about separation from Krishna and just try to understand the value of separation, the place that separation holds within our theology, the exalted position it holds within our theology. And I want to make a disclaimer, which is that you may not understand intellectually what we're talking about, or it may be difficult, or maybe impossible for some of us. But hearing about it is purifying. Prabhupada did talk about it even in the early days. So hearing about it will be purifying. And so there is the process of hearing that goes to the heart, which sometimes bypasses the intellect. It's like it's beyond what we can understand. We don't have experience. We're trying to grasp it. What is separation? And what is this blissful pain and so forth? And we don't have experience of that. So, or we may have very little or no experience. So then intellectually, there's like no box in our brain for it. But still hearing about it, hearing what Mahaprabhu experiences in separation, what Radha experiences, even what Krishna experiences, hearing about it will affect our heart. And so in that mood, we're going to be reading things Prabhupada said about separation. And so I will try to explain it, but if you don't fully grasp it, don't worry. I think that's to be expected to some degree, that you won't fully grasp it. So that's okay. It's okay in the sense that it's just how it is, right? And the way Krishna consciousness works is that we hear many things for the first time, which are quote unquote foreign to us. We've never heard them before. Or the concepts are very transcendental, maybe too transcendental for our minds and hearts to relate to properly comprehend. But the process is to hear. And so by hearing repeatedly, because the vibration is transcendental, we begin to become purified by hearing, and then we begin to understand. So it's in that vein that we're going to be reading, because this is quite it's quite an elevated topic. It's actually, Prabhupada said that the highest position is to achieve separation, and Mahaprabhu exhibited that separation, especially in Puri, in the mood of Radha, separation from Krishna, and he was teaching that this is the highest aspect of prema. So it's kind of like, this is really where you want to go. We also hear about the residents of Braj. We hear specifically about the gopis of Vrindavan, and we hear like, this is where we're going. This is where we want to be. Even you may not be in that rasa, but that is the ideal. That level of surrender, that's the ideal. So we hear about it. And so we get what we can understand. It gets in there, a little bit gets in there. Like you eat something, your digestion isn't good, but some nutrients get in. So maybe our digestive power to understand this topic may not be full, but something will get in. So that's the idea. So don't be frustrated if you hear things that just like, I don't really make sense to you. That's to be expected. Okay, so we're going to begin.
Y vamos a comenzar ya.
You want to
Perdón,
explain?
tuvimos problemas de audio, pero ya.
You have to turn your mic off, Anuradha. Okay. So I just have to bring this document up. And these are quotes. They're kind of random. It's not organized systematically. I didn't go through this topic systematically as if I was going to be presenting a seminar that goes from one level to another. But generally what happens is when you study things that Prabhupada says, you'll start to see kind of what we could call a alignment between the different things that Prabhupada says, because often Prabhupada repeats things because we need to hear things over and over again. We don't always get it the first time. And so in different contexts, in different leelas, or different philosophical contexts, he will say the same thing and it can be appreciated slightly differently because it's a different context. Said slightly differently, it just helps us. So in this vein, as within other classes, we've just compiled the quotes and we've read them in no systematic order, no rhyme or reason, but I don't think it's a problem. I think we'll be fine. And as Prabhupada said, when we were reading his books, he was asked, where should we read? And Prabhupada said, anywhere you go, it's sweet. So in that vein, we'll begin reading. So I guess, Chaitanya, you can see each quote, and then you can put that quote in the chat box. And I think I will read it from the chat box. So you can all read along if you would like. So there is, there's a purport there also, right? You want to put that purport in. So this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 4th chapter, text 21. My dear Vidura, now I am mad for want of the pleasure of seeing him. And just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badarik Ashram in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him. A pure devotee of the Lord, of the standard of Uddhava, constantly associates with the Lord in the double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting. The pure devotee is not for a moment unengaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. Execution of the Lord's service is the main occupation of the pure devotee. Uddhava's separation from the Lord was unbearable, and therefore he started to Badarik ashram in obedience to the Lord's order, because the order of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. As long as one is engaged in the execution of the order of the Lord, there is no factual separation. So this, of course, externally appears a little confusing, because we talk about separation. Separation is a reality. Uddhava is feeling separation, and Krishna asked him to go to Badarik ashram, take shelter there. And then Prabhupada says that when you execute the order of Krishna, then that is Krishna, that is the same as meeting Krishna. So there's this sense of separation, and there's this sense of meeting at the same time. And so that's a little difficult for us to understand. But the underlying principle is that separation increases prema. So separation, we shouldn't think of separation as something bad. And generally we think it as something bad. We're separated. Separation is not good. It's good when we're together. And then we have this English saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So we know oftentimes when we're with someone, we can take them for granted. And in separation, the appreciation for them, the longing towards them increases. So even materially speaking, separation can increase our affection, our longing. So we have the example of Krishna leaving Vrindavan. And so the natural question comes, if Krishna left Vrindavan, why didn't he go back? He could have gone back. Well, there are reasons he didn't go back. Those are external reasons. He had to go to school. So after he killed Kamsa, his parents thought, you've never been to school, let's go to school. So then that took 64 days. And then he came back. And then one thing led to another, led to another. And so there are external reasons that Krishna did not go back to Vrindavan for 90 odd years, or whatever it was. But the internal reason was that it was increasing the love of the Brajbasis, that the separation was actually increasing their love. And we know, and if you study the life of Krishna and you study the heart of Krishna, you know that Krishna, his whole existence is based on love, receiving and giving love. And so whatever Krishna can do to enhance the love of his devotees for him and enhance his love for them, he will do. And so separation is part of what he does to do that, to increase their love. And so we hear stories that Krishna hears about the residents of Vrindavan, and he hears that they're suffering, and then he's suffering, hearing that they're suffering. So then it even pains Krishna to be separated, but that separation is also a kind of sweetness because it's increasing the love. So you have this apparent duality going on. It always seems like separation should end because it's painful, but it doesn't end. And in fact, Krishna creates separation because it increases love. So whenever there is separation, then we should understand it's a transcendental arrangement by Krishna. There is a story, maybe you've heard this story, in Prabhupada's last days in Vrindavan. Prabhupada wanted to go to Govardhan, and everyone knew that, and he wanted to go by bullock cart. It wasn't like, we'll go by helicopter. And the doctor was saying, just to get Prabhupada out of Krishna Balaram Mandir, he wouldn't even make it out of the Mandir. He wouldn't live to be moved around like that, what to speak of going a bullock cart. So it was driving the devotees completely insane. And There were a couple of devotees who thought, well, this is what Prabhupada wants. He's our spiritual master, so we should do it. So they were preparing the bullock cart. But all the other devotees thought, we can't allow this to happen because Prabhupada will leave. He won't survive. And Prabhupada was saying, well, what is the wrong if we die in parikrama? Like Prabhupada is pushing for it, or seemingly pushing for it. And so it's creating this dynamic because there's two devotees arranging for it, and that's driving the devotees even more crazy. And Prabhupada is not stopping them. So the scene is going on, and it climaxes in which the devotees just have a breakdown, and they decide that they have to tell Prabhupada, please don't do this. Sometimes the disciple, will tell the spiritual master, please don't do this. We can't tolerate this. This is breaking our heart. So that's what they did. And then Prabhupada said, oh, I don't want to put you in anxiety like this. If I'm putting you in anxiety, then I won't do it. And then devotees are saying, Prabhupada, we can't take this. And then one devotee is very close to Prabhupada. He said, why are you putting us in anxiety like this? Why are you doing this to us? We can't take this. And Prabhupada said, it is my duty. It is my duty to create these situations where your love for me grows, because Krishna consciousness is all about love. Love for the Guru then transforms into love for Krishna. So not only Krishna does it through separation, even Prabhupada did it. And this was, you might say, not separation per se, but it was because the devotees knew that if Prabhupada did this, he would leave his body. So there was intense separation was being felt. And so Prabhupada was even creating this mood. So in summary, I just want to say that we should never think that separation is bad. We should always see it as good, even though there are words that describe separation, such as pain and heat, etc., suffering. These words are described. But we always have to remember, in the transcendental realm, in the spiritual world, there is no pain and there is no suffering as we know it. And that whatever pain, I'm muting you people so we don't have to hear you coughing. Whatever, pain, whenever we hear this word pain, it's in the context of a transcendental position, Anando Maya Vyasa. The spiritual world is full of Ananda. So its context is bliss. But there's variety in the spiritual world. So there is so-called duality, although we know there is no duality in the spiritual world because it's transcendental. But it seems like there's a duality. Duality means opposite. But both opposites are the same. So the pain and the pleasure, they're really the same thing. But from our experience, they're not the same, because our pain is painful and our pleasure is pleasurable and our pain is not pleasurable, generally speaking. So if we understand it's a device, which is not a device, it's an aspiration. It's the highest aspiration of the Vaishnavas to feel separation. That is like the highest state of consciousness. So although it seems like unfair, Krishna left Vrindavan, and the Brajbasis are feeling this intense pain of separation, is actually the highest aspiration. And so Mahaprabhu, because it's the highest aspiration, Mahaprabhu comes and he wants to experience what Radharani's experiencing. You could say he's jealous of what she's experiencing. So he wants to experience what she's experiencing. And what is she experiencing? She's experiencing separation. So what does he experience? Particularly in the Gambhira, in his last days in Puri, he enters totally into that mood of separation that Radha feels from Krishna. And that's the whole meaning of Rath Yatra, bringing Radha's feelings, the Brajbasi's feelings of separation from Krishna, and they're bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. From Kurukshetra, let's bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. There was so much separation in Kurukshetra. it was such a high position because Radha and Krishna were together, but they weren't together. They're together, but they're separated. So it was even, the intensity of separation was more. It's like, I have you, but I don't. Like, I can't touch you. It's like, I see you, but you're in prison and I can't go in. I can't get you. So Radha, Krishna, and the Brajbasis have to be in Vrindavan to be able to enjoy the transcendental Leela. And so when they're in Kurukshetra, although they're with Krishna, he's not in the form of Shamsundar, and it's not Vrindavan. So at that place, the separation got more intense, the most intense. And so we might see it externally. It's like, this is horrible. There they are, and they don't have Krishna, and it's been so long since they've seen him, and now they're with him, but he's in a royal dress, surrounded by royalty. And that's not their Krishna. You know, it's like you have a friend, let's say you grew up with, and you played with them and you did all these sports with them, and that's your relationship with them, you know, or you're in a band with them, you played music or whatever. That's your relationship. And then they go on to be a prime minister of some country. And so that relationship doesn't work for you. So you can go see them in the Capitol building, but it's like, no, this is not my friend. This is not the one I grew up with. This is not the relationship that I have. So with Brajbasi, it was like that. This is not our Krishna, this king, this royal position. This is not our Krishna. So we want our Krishna, but that's not him. And so separation hit the highest level. And so we'll read about it and we'll feel like this is like horrible. No, but we need to understand it's the highest aspiration of the Vaishnava. Mahaprabhu came to experience that very thing that when we read about, we think, oh, this is horrible. And he's coming to experience it. So now you're all sitting here and thinking, yeah, I'm light years away from this. The only thing I feel separation from is my liqueurs and sweet rice and my favorite YouTube channel. But other than that, if I don't chant my rounds today, it's like, well, I'll chant them tomorrow. We don't feel separate. I don't read Bhagavatam today. Read it tomorrow. It's not like a problem, right? So how am I supposed to relate to all this? And this is quite theoretical for sure for us. This is quite theoretical. But the point I made in the beginning is that Prabhupada gave us this theory. It's like this is it. This is where we're supposed to be headed. You know, we might be pointing at the moon and go, yeah, the moon's however far it is away, but that's where we're going. So like, okay, that's the moon. That's where we're going. This is, you know, we understand it theoretically, right? So that's basically what we're doing now. We're getting a theoretical framework that, just like Gopi Bhav, that's the highest. That's what we want. You know, so okay, how do you relate to the Gopi? Well, are you completely free from sex desire? Are you completely free from identifying with your body? Are you free from false ego? Completely free of lust, anger, greed, envy, and so forth? If you're not, how will you perfectly understand the gopis and their hearts and their emotions? Do you have at least bhava? How will you understand anything? At the same time, we understand it in a sense by not understanding it and hearing about it. And as I said, you know, some light gets through the window, you know, some rays, you got the curtains closed, but there's a little crack. And so something gets through. So that's what we're doing. We're creating a theoretical framework. And then when you have this theoretical framework, as you study Krishna consciousness, then this framework gives you proper perspective on how to understand Krishna consciousness as a whole, but specifically where we're going. And then maybe when you find yourself feeling separation for something material, maybe the lights will go off in your mind and you'll think, oh, this is the perverted reflection. I am now as far away from where Krishna consciousness is supposed to be, the highest level of Krishna consciousness is supposed to be, because I'm feeling separation I'm feeling intense pangs of separation from my dog, who just died in a car accident or something. So we can think, okay, these normal human emotions which are being felt in this world really are meant to be felt in the spiritual world. And that's really where I want to go with it. And then sometimes it may even look like a devotee, a pure devotee lacks material emotion, but for such things. And to some degree it's true because of the detachment, that they're not feeling the pain of losing something material as we do. And that's our feeling of separation. It's very intense. But that intense feeling is ultimately meant to be cultivated or developed. I don't say actually cultivated, we can say cultivated, but awakened, developed for Krishna. That's what we're understanding now. So this can give us some context. Oh, I'm feeling separation. I haven't eaten pizza all week. Like, look at me. I'm a nonsense. I should be feeling separation from my relation with Krishna, not from pizza or whatever it is. Feeling separation from the devotees, that's good. I haven't seen my dear God brothers and God sisters or these great devotees. I haven't seen them. I'm going to go to India. I'm going to see them. I see them. Oh, feeling separation, meeting. Yeah. So that's good. Emotions in relation to Krishna. That's fantastic. Yeah, we want that. Okay. So let's go to the next one. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We don't have the context of all the stories. If I feel we need the context, maybe I'll go in to the actual place in Shastra, and then we'll read some verses before, get the context, if needed, or if I can't remember. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is Adi Lila, chapter 4, text 31. Translation: the period of separation, evaluated transcendentally, is more relishable than actual meeting, which lacks the feelings of increasing anticipation because the lover and beloved are both present. Let's read the purport, I think. We can understand that verse, at least from a logical perspective. Purport: the spontaneous attraction of Sri Krishna for his dearest parts and parcels generates an enthusiasm that obliges Sri Krishna and the gopis to meet together. To celebrate this transcendental enthusiasm, there is need of a sentiment of separation between the lover and beloved. In the condition of material tribulation, no one wants the pangs of separation. But in the transcendental form, the very same separation, being absolute in its nature, strengthens the ties of love and enhances the desire of the lover and beloved to meet. The period of separation, evaluated transcendentally, is more relishable than the actual meeting, which lacks the feelings of increasing anticipation because the lover and beloved are both present. So-called devotees like the Sahajiyas cheaply imagine they are meeting Krishna in Vrindavan. Such thinking may be useful, but actually meeting Krishna is possible through the attitude of separation taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada used to quote the Sad Goswami Ashtakam. In one prayer, it describes how the Goswamis were looking for Krishna. Are you over there? Are you over here? Where are you? And Prabhupada would quote that often to say that we should not feel that we've seen Krishna, but we should be like the Goswamis, that I'm looking for Krishna, anticipating Krishna. And when Prabhupada went to Vrindavan, he said that I was always thinking Krishna. Maybe I'll find Krishna in the next bush, behind that bush, behind this bush. So I think we can understand this from this verse and purport, because I think we can relate to this anticipation, like someone you love who you haven't seen, is coming to your city or you're going to their city, right? And they're flying in and they're going to be coming tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and they're going to be coming in a few hours, and you drive to the airport and there's this anticipation, and then the plane lands. I mean, you can't imagine what it was like with Prabhupada. He's coming in and the plane lands and the door opens and people are coming out, and then finally we see Prabhupada. It's like an explosion when we saw Prabhupada. So this anticipation, Prabhupada's been gone for a year, the feeling of separation. So our anticipation, our feelings are very special at that point, right before Prabhupada would come off the airplane. So therefore, separation is being glorified as a impetus to develop these kinds of emotions that, as said here in the verse and purport, don't develop when you're with Krishna, but they develop when you're separated from Krishna. So again, this separation is glorified as higher than meeting, as a higher state of consciousness. Isn't that interesting? Now, of course, you might say, well, how can you have separation if you don't have meeting? And the answer is, you can't. They both go together. And then you're asking, well, how can I have separation from Krishna if I never met him? You will meet Krishna when you reach the stage of bhava, because on the stage of bhava, you realize Krishna is in his name. And that would mean you realize Krishna is in his deity and the Bhagavatam and so forth. You realize Krishna in his incarnations in different forms of matter, so to speak. So then you can begin to feel separation because there's meeting. You have met Krishna, but it's a certain kind of cultivation also. And you could say a certain kind of byproduct of prema. And it's always confusing for devotees because we're always wondering, well, how do we relate to this? And is there any kind of separation on our level of Krishna consciousness? And there is some. It's unique to our level, but there is some separation that we can feel. Separation from devotees, separation if we're not doing service well, or we're in a place where we're not able to do service, we're not able to chant well and so forth. So or if we like dressing the deities and we haven't been able to do it, or we like certain services we haven't been able to do. So there is some kind of seeds of separation. And if those seeds are there, then cultivate them. We don't want to be sahajis and think, oh, Prabhu, I haven't dressed the deities for a week. I'm feeling intense separation. All ashtaka bhava, ecstatic symptoms are manifest in my body. It's not like that. But everything in bhakti develops from a seed to a full-grown tree. So it has to start somewhere. So there are seeds of separation that we can cultivate or plant or water. And if they're there, if we just like many of you who have been to India and relished Vrindavan and Mayapur, will feel separation. You're not there now, you want to be there. Your Krishna consciousness was revived in many, many ways. I don't know if they revived, escalated, uplifted. Not that you didn't have it to start with, but very, very elevated. So you might feel separation from being away from Vrindavan or Mayapur. That's good. It causes you to meditate on the holy Dham, non-different than Krishna. So you're meditating on the holy Dham, you're becoming purified, or a service that you can't do now. So that's good. So we can allow those feelings within us as they develop naturally, not artificially, not pretending that these are genuine symptoms of Mahabhav, ecstasy. No, it's not, but it's a seed. It's a seed of it. And if there is separation, I think our material conditioning always wants to reject separation because separation means pain. Separation is not fun, right? That's our, at least materially speaking, that's our conditioning. But if these kinds of separation manifest in your life, then welcome them in and cultivate them. I'm feeling even separation from just a taste for the holy name. I'm feeling pained. You can cultivate that because that will help you. Or a separation from a taste for hearing. My taste is declining. It used to be stronger. It's a kind of, you could call it a kind of separation in its own way. But if it can be an impetus to increase your quality of hearing or increase your quality of whatever you're feeling separated from, then it's good, right? Why not cultivate it? Okay. We have some comments here, don't we? Okay, I'll take your comments. Sometimes I like to take the comments as we talk because it's within the context of the conversation. So I don't know if this is from Anuradha or it's from someone else. It's from you or from someone else?
From me.
Okay. When talking about human feelings related to spiritual feelings, can you explain the difference between love in the spiritual world and material world? Por favor. So, I think there's another category here. The love that the love in the material world experienced by a devotee and the love in the material world experienced by a non-devotee. Because sexual love in the material world, a very strong component that makes it work is bodily identification, physical attraction, lust, and so forth. That's what binds people together. That's what brings them together. That's what causes attraction. And that's what we call love, which is usually very, it's the impetus for that love is the attraction of the opposite sex to one another. It may be physical, it may be intellectual, emotional, but there's this physical attraction from which that I get pleasure from this person that I'm attracted to, and that it brings me closer to that person to get that pleasure. So that kind of love, that would be purely a material example of love. Because there's a blues song. How does this song go? Yeah, it's a blue. You know the blues. The blues is all about lamenting and I don't know who wrote it, but B.B. King sang this song, and I think the words of the song are something like, "The fire's gone, the flame's gone." It's a song. It's a song of separation. The flame is. I'm like leaving you. The flame is gone. I don't feel anything for you. And that's like the words of the songs. The flame is gone, baby. Doo-doo, doo-doo. The flame is gone. Like that. So that flame, what is that flame? That flame is a form, a variety of physical attraction between two people, by which they get pleasure from one another's association, whether it's sexual pleasure, grossly or subtly, being together, talking, or just the pleasure could be intellectual. Maybe it's not sexual. The pleasure they get from being together with one another, personal pleasure they get, material pleasure. So now when we talk about love amongst devotees and the devotee association, then we can use the word love as Prabhupada did, or our spiritual master for Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada used this word for his disciples because often Prabhupada said his disciples have so many faults, but they have this one outstanding quality. They have faith in me. They'll do whatever I say. So if you have faith in somebody and you would do whatever they ask you, then I think it's safe to say you have some love for them, isn't it? You know, we're, as devotees, we're reluctant to say, I actually love my spiritual master. You know, we can use it as a phrase, oh, Gurudev, I love you. But to honestly reflect on it, do I really love? Am I really, you know, we're a little reluctant to say that. But Prabhupada can say it. It's easier when he says it. You know, so Prabhupada did use the word love in relation to guru and disciples, both ways. The guru loves, the disciple loves. Because, and the reason we can use that word love, not in the sense of prema, love for Krishna, and all those symptoms, or bhava, but in the sense of service, which is not motivated by personal gain, as it is with lust. Because if the fire is gone, then, you know, I'm out of here. That's the, you know, the modern idea. Like, I'm not attracted to you anymore, so why should I hang out with you? That's, you know, so that's where dharma evaporates, and then the bond is just based on mutual attraction and pleasure. If you lose that, then it's gone. So the love wasn't grounded in anything stable. Now you might say, but there is love in the material world that is stable, where the fire is gone, but they stay together because of service and like that. So yeah, so that would be more akin to what we're talking about in terms of guru and disciple. The guru gives to the disciple, and the guru has nothing, there's no personal gain the guru gets per se by giving to the disciple. Of course, the disciple may help the guru serve his guru and serve his mission. All right, so he gets something, but in his giving, he's not motivated to give to people to get something. Oh, let's go out and spread Krishna consciousness, then we'll have more people, so we'll have more resources and more manpower, more money. So he doesn't think that way. He's thinking, I want to help people become Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead. So therefore, the spiritual master, his service to his disciples is pure. The disciple receives that and thinks, my spiritual master is so merciful. I want to serve him. I want to reciprocate. As Prabhupada said, you can never fully reciprocate with the guru, but I want to try. I want to try to please him. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada, because Prabhupada and Shastra always says that if you please Guru, you please Krishna's pleased. So we understand this idea of pleasing Guru. Why do I want to please Guru? Not to satisfy any kind of material need, but simply out of love, out of affection. It's easier. I think it's easier for us to use the word affection, because when we use the word love, then this idea where Prabhupada says there's no love in the material world, and love's a very big word, and love of God and like that. So sometimes it's safer to just use affection, because it helps us define what we're talking about without all the negatives that could come up when we use the word love, because we think, I don't have any love. My heart's just full of lust. There's no love in the material world. Only Radha and the gopis have love. So that's true to some degree, but Prabhupada did use the word in relation to his disciples, both in his service to them and their service to him. And it's also used, we also use the word in relation to Sangha, of loving the devotees, because in the Sangha of devotees, then there's service, right? And that service, again, is not motivated by getting anything. So you serve one another, you serve prasadam, you give gifts, you reveal your mind. These are the loving exchanges. The motive is not to show off, to achieve something, to get something, but the motive is to serve. So we can call that love. And that's why we use this word, loving exchanges. Again, the word is used, loving exchange, right? Nectar of instruction, 6 kinds of loving exchange. Really, there's 3, but it's just 6 because it goes both ways. There's 2 people, so I do it and you do it. So that makes 2. Giving gifts and receiving gifts. All right, so that's 2. Taking prasadam, serving prasadam, revealing the mind, listening to someone reveal the mind. So there's 6, but basically 3. So that's called loving exchange, priti lakshanam. It's right there. And so Prabhupada, he never said, actually, this is not love. We don't have love. We're just conditioned souls. We're full of lust. You can't really love another devotee. No. So he did use these words, and Prabhupada uses words in various contexts, and the definitions of the words will vary according to the context. But we understand love in general as acts which are not motivated by sense gratification, by anything I'm going to get for myself. So if I serve you, you serve me, we serve one another to help one another, to please one another, then that's a loving exchange. So we can say that, yeah, we're engaged in loving exchange. Now, I hope that's clear, that love does exist. It can, and the Prabhupada gives the example of a mother's love for the child as the closest form of love to pure love, because it's just for the pleasure of the child. So there are very high degrees of love in the material world. It's just not prema. It's a different kind of love. So naturally the mother loves the child, but it's based on bodily affection. So it's not pure. But if you isolate just the love itself, you can say, well, this is pure love. But if you add it in the context, well, it's her son or daughter, of course. And even the animals love their children. But and then you get this like, okay, but what about my children? And I shouldn't be attached, and too much attachment's not good and like that. And so then we define love in a spiritual context. Well, if you actually love your children, then you'll make facility for them, do whatever you can to help them become Krishna conscious. You'll be a good example yourself because you love them. You'll provide facility for them to progress spiritually, not just to help them materially, but help them spiritually because you love them. And so that love now, it takes a spiritual position. So then when it's in a spiritual position, you can define it as love because now it's free from the restraints and taints of materialism. So you can call it, you have a right to say, I love my child, but that love is not tainted overwhelmingly with material attachment because the basis of your love is to liberate them. Guru nasasyat, you know the verse. Swajani nasat, don't be a guru, don't be a relative, unless you can liberate your dependence. So that's the fifth canto. So that's the idea. So I'm very attached to my daughter. I'm very attached to my son, this and that. Yeah, that's okay. But the best way to manifest that attachment is to facilitate. This is because I love you. I want you to go back to Godhead. So I facilitate that. So that love is there. It would be, I think, a problem for us if we denied that love exists, because it would confuse us. Say, well, what is that? Like, well, what do I have for my children? Do I not love them? Do I hate them? Do I lust after them? Well, then that wouldn't make sense. I do love them, but my love is contextual. My love within the spiritual context is to help them become liberated. So if you love somebody, you want to help them become Krishna conscious. So then I can say I love my God brothers. Why do I love my God brothers? Because by their association, I become Krishna conscious. I want to reciprocate with that. I feel indebted. I feel grateful. I have affection naturally to anybody who helps me become Krishna conscious. This is how affection and Krishna consciousness develops. When someone is helping you advance, you naturally develop affection for them. They become dear to you because advancement is the most dear thing in your life, isn't it? So naturally we become affectionate with devotees because they help us so much in our Krishna consciousness. We need them so much. We depend on them so much. So we can also say, yes, I love the devotees. If I appreciate them, if I can serve them without any desire other than to please them, then I can say I love them in that sense. Priti lakshanam, I'm loving them. I want to please them. You want to please somebody, that's your love. You're not trying to get something. So The confusion is when we hear about love of Krishna, then immediately we say, no, I don't have that. I don't have a drop of that. I don't even know what that is. I don't know how many light years away from that kind of love I am. The seed of bhakti has been planted in our hearts. Within that seed is love. And it's just as that seed grows, it's growing from a seed of love. So it's actually growing. So maybe you're on the stage of anartha nivritti or bhajana kriya. So your love is like that big. And then anartha nivritti a little bigger, and then it gets a little bigger at nishta and like that, and ruchi. So it's actually your love is growing. It's just not, you don't call it love until it gets to the stage, at least bhava. Even bhava you don't call love, it's preliminary love. And so prema is love. So when we use the word prema, then we say, oh, I don't have love. There's no love in this world. Because now if you're comparing it to prema, that's true. There's only prema in the hearts of very few people. So you won't find prema in this world. So if that's how you define love, then yeah, everything else seems like it's not love when it actually is. It's just not that love. So I think that's important. So sometimes I think we had discussed in a class on Saturday, sometimes Prabhupada talks about serving Krishna with love. And so naturally devotee thinks, how can I serve Krishna with love? I'm just I'm on the stage of bhajana kriya. I just got initiated, or I'm not even initiated yet. And like, what kind of love do I have? Or I'm on anartha nivritti. I can't seem to get over these anarthas, I'm trying to get rid of them, but they keep coming back, keep knocking on my door. What's going on here? But then Prabhupada would say, we should serve Krishna with love. Bhajatam priti purvakam, Patra pushpam balam tayam, yome bhakta prachati, offer me, how to offer bhakta paritam with bhakti devotion. Like, okay, how do I do that? I don't have any love, and it's saying here to offer love. So now we have a broader definition of love. And so you may have heard this, I think most of you have heard this recording of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada is describing the position of a devotee and the humility of a devotee. And he's describing this humility in the context of how a devotee makes an offering to Krishna. And he says, Krishna, my body has no value, and the things that I offer you have no value, but I brought them to you, please accept. And Prabhupada was crying. So Prabhupada is saying, this is how you manifest love when you don't have it. You go to Krishna and say, here, I've cooked this for you. I beg you, please accept. I'm not qualified. So for us, our sincerity is our love. Now, one time, the devotee was saying, well, Prabhupada, how do we love you? And Prabhupada said, follow your initiation vows. So bring it to some level of, at least try to follow them. Try your best. Be sincere. Try. Don't give up. Pray. That's your love. That's how you manifest your love. So it's a different definition of love that we don't want to throw all these definitions of love out the door because it's not prema, because that's too black and white. And because Prabhupada has used the word more loosely. Prabhupada often uses words very broadly. And this is sometimes why there's controversy amongst devotees, because one devotee is looking at a narrow definition and one devotee is looking at a broad definition. And so they may argue because they're each arguing from the vantage point of their definition and they disagree. So Prabhupada does this a lot. And so with love, yes, love is prema. That's very narrow. It's clearly defined. But then he has this broad definition of love. So serve sincerely. How do I make an offering with love? Krishna, here, I brought this to you. I have no qualification. All I can do is I beg you to accept it. That's your love. That's how you manifest it. Now you may get up after that and think, I have no love for Krishna. I'm a rascal. I just love pizza and ice cream. I love my stomach. That's what I love. I love to sleep. I love my bed and my kitchen. That's what I love. Okay, that's all right. But you can manifest the sincerity, and that will be accepted as your love. Hare Krishna. So if anyone, ever says there's no love in this world and we have no love and like that, it's true, but it's within that context of prema. There is no prema, no love in this world. There is no prema. I think sometimes Prabhupada, maybe the stories, he saw a cat and a mother and a child, kitten, and the affection between them. And he was saying, even the cats, they have love, It's like, love is it's natural. It's just perverted. That's all. That's all we say. Okay, you all have love, it's just perverted. That's all. Cats, animals love their kids. So that's a healthier way of understanding. Otherwise, we as devotees can be kind of weird. Isn't it? Prabhu, there's no love in the material world. Rah. That kind of, yeah. Okay. What, your mother didn't love you? Yeah, she did, but it's not real love. Rah. So then we become like weird. Or maybe I should say more weird than we already are. We're already weird enough, so you don't need to be more weird. Yeah. So if we can't manifest love in our service, then what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? If there's no way to manifest it through some action of sincerity or, devotion, or even, like Prabhupada said, you love me, follow your vows. Adherence to principles is a form of love. First law of love is obedience. It's like, I have no love, but my guru wants me to do this, so I'm going to do it. So maybe I feel like I don't have love for my guru, but he asked me to do this, so I'm going to do it. But Prabhupada said, if you have love for your guru, then it will become an impetus to follow the guru's orders. Because anytime there's a relationship where there's obligation, then naturally, even when you don't feel like doing it, you do it. So that's how love on this personal level between guru and disciple is so powerful. Like, I don't feel like doing this, or I'm not naturally inclined by my conditioning to do this, but because my spiritual master wants me to do it, and because I love him, I do it, right? A lot of times you'll find a son, for example, running a business after his father passes away, and he doesn't really even want to do it, but he's doing it because his father asked him to do it. He said, my father started this business, he wants me to maintain it, he wants me to grow it, and that's why I'm doing it, out of love for him. Otherwise, on my own, I wouldn't do it. Yeah, I'd be an artist or something, or I'd make films. I wouldn't be selling, chemicals for, the petrol industry or something like that. But that's what he wants me to do. So Prabhupada had said that when there's a relationship of love, the naturally following becomes natural or easier. Natural, easier, both. This is why I'm doing this, because I promised you and I value that relationship, and therefore I'm doing it. That's why. So if we increase our love for our guru, at least on that level, so I don't want to let you down. I mean, how would you feel if your guru didn't follow his guru? That would let you down a lot, right? I have a guru and he doesn't even follow his guru. So, so we're all in the same boat. We all have gurus. The guru has a guru and the guru follows, right? And so it's the guru's duty to follow his guru, and the guru's duty to his disciple, just as the disciple's duty is to follow the guru has a duty to disciple to follow. And oftentimes at initiations, I tell devotees, I say, just like you're making a vow to follow these principles, I'm also making the vow every day for you. It's not just for Prabhupada only, it's also for you. So this way we can find impetus that I'm following this also out of out of compassion or kindness or affection for the people that I want to help become Krishna conscious, because how can I help them if I don't follow them? I'm hypocritical. So I do it for them. There are many times when I'm chanting my rounds and I'm thinking, I'm actually doing this for my disciples. Like my Krishna consciousness affects them. So obviously I do it as a vow, I do it as a service, but also as a service to them, that I have to maintain myself as a service to them. So that's where the love comes in. And that's why it's so bad if we just downplay this concept of love. I have no love, there's no love in the material, this and that. Then we cannot access the power of the love that we can manifest according to our position, our state of Krishna consciousness, or within the context that we can manifest it, right? As duty, as affection to other devotees, as affection to our guru, affection to ourself, self-care course, affection to ourself as well. Love yourself. And that's the whole goal of bhakti, right? Okay. That was a long answer, right? Good question. So Chaitanya Dasi, is this from you or from somebody else?
It's just the second part of the purport.
Oh, okay. Okay, forget that. Hoshan Krishna asks, is it dangerous having more love for others than having love for yourself? It won't last. You'll burn out because you'll neglect yourself. I don't see how it can work that you hate yourself and love others. I don't see how that works. And as we discovered in the self-care workshop, that we tend to treat others the way we treat ourselves. So I think if you don't care for yourself and you care for others, you will internally feel something is wrong. You will not feel comfortable. Like it's much easier to care for other people than care for yourself. It's easier, like I can say, Toshan, you should exercise every day, at least like, walk up a mountain every day, or ride your bike up a hill, or, and you should be taking vitamins and cutting down on your sugar. It's like easy for me to say that, but to actually do it, that's more difficult. But what right ultimately do I have to tell you to do that if I don't do it? In the absolute sense, I don't, because I'm a hypocrite. And so Mahaprabhu said you should always act according to what you preach. Prachar, be the example of what you preach. So we have experience that if we teach something which we don't follow, it creates an internal conflict. And it actually makes us feel worse than if we didn't teach it at all, because we'll feel like, well, I don't have a right to teach this because I don't do it. But if I'm teaching to do it and I don't do it, we feel conflicted. So therefore, if we're going to be able to really help people, the potency to help them comes from us doing first what we tell them to do. And then when you say, do this, it resonates deeply with you. It doesn't disturb you because you're doing it, but it has power now. And people can feel that power. And you know what it's like. Two people say the same thing. One person's doing it, one person isn't. It's the exact same words, but the effect is totally different. So, yeah, we a lot of times when I give a seminar, my preparation is not to study, but my preparation is to do what I teach, to practice, to make sure I'm practicing very carefully what I'm teaching in the seminar. And that's where all the power and the realization comes from. You know, the theory is good, but I already know the theory. But the realizations come through the practice. And when you share realizations, that's really what helps people. I think another thing that we have to confront is the fact that we have accepted Krishna consciousness because everything else we did didn't work, didn't make sense. But sometimes we accept it, but we don't accept it. It's like we accept it, but then it's just a theoretical acceptance, and that doesn't work. Like if we accept it, then we should accept it, and then we'll be happy. But if we accept it, but kind of don't accept it, and kind of, you know, should I jump in? Shouldn't I? It's not going to work. But we've already decided to jump in. So that thinking should stop. I already decided to jump in. So why am I mental now? I'm just going to jump in. And then when you do that, everything works better. So that's good to remember. I already made a decision. Like, why am I hesitating? Like, we're going, okay, Toshan, we're going to the ocean today. It's like 0 degrees, but we decided for the polar bears, we're going to go jump in the ocean, you know. And then we're like, okay, let's do it. And then we get there and we're like getting our ankles wet. And I don't know about this. And I go, and I push Toshan and I say, you already decided to do this. Just do it, you know. So it's a bit like that. We get like, if we hesitate doing what we already decided and we already know what we should do, then we suffer because now we're not living in alignment with what we know we should be doing, right? And you can never be happy. And as I've said many times before, that when you become Krishna conscious, in a sense, it gets worse because it's crystal clear now what you should do. Like before you're a devotee, it's not always crystal clear and it's always subject to putting it out of focus because truth in the material world is relative. You can just go, well, I don't believe that, right? So I'm not going to do it. Well, with Krishna consciousness, you can't just say, I don't believe that because you do believe it. And so you're having difficulty following it, but at the same time, you believe it. So you can't write it off like you could before you were a devotee. I don't care about that. Who cares? Nobody knows if it's true anyway. Why should I follow that? But Krishna consciousness is quite precise, right? So therefore, if we don't follow it, we suffer because we can't write it off. The only thing we can write off is, okay, maybe I have to adjust to some degree because I can't follow it maybe the way I did 5 years ago, but I can't write it off and just go. Because I know deep in my heart it's right. And so if I write it off, it doesn't work because I'm like erasing something, you know, like deleting something, but it's still there in the recycle bin. It's not actually deleted off the hard drive, right? You know, everything you delete, it stays until you get it off the recycle bin. It's still there. You just don't see it. It just appears to be not accessible. So we already know it's true. You can't delete it. You know, it's just like, there are many, many devotees. I don't know how many. I haven't done a statistical survey, but there are many devotees who come back to Krishna consciousness, like when they're older, who either left or just weren't doing well. And it's kind of like one day they wake up and like, what am I doing? This is what I dedicated my life to. This is what I believe in. Like, why am I not doing this? And then they go more deeply in their Krishna consciousness, and then there's just like normal. Like, yeah, this is normal. This is how I'm supposed to be. So, so loving yourself means following what you know is right. That's the best love. When you know it's right and you do it, that's loving yourself, isn't it? Because if you don't, you drive yourself completely crazy, isn't it? Have you ever done something and you go, I know this is wrong? Like, how do you feel? Like you're on your way to do it. And how do you feel? You feel differently than you feel like when you decide to do something that is right and you do it. You feel like, yes, I just conquered the world, isn't it? And when you do the other one, you feel like, damn, the world conquered me. And you just become depressed. So if there's self-care, then we understand if I make a choice to give in to a weakness, I will suffer. But if I make a choice to give in to not to give in to, well, maybe that's not the right word. But if I make a choice to go with what I know is true, what I know is right, I will feel, like we say, like $1 million. I will feel true to myself, and I will feel amazingly inspired and enthused. So knowing that, then we can make the choice to say, well, if I care about myself, I will do what I know I should do. Yes. Right? Isn't it? So you could even say, well, that's a little bit selfish, but that selfishness is okay because it'll get you to a good place because you don't want to suffer. And you can make that a habit, just do what is good for you. Make that your habit. Yes. Hare Krishna. Krishna Premi is asking, I was once asked, can developing too much self-love evolve into arrogance? Anything can evolve into arrogance, but you have to be an arrogant person to start with. So if you're not an arrogant person, too much self-love is not going to evolve to arrogance. If you are an arrogant person, there's a good chance anything you do is going to evolve into arrogance. It's just so, this cause and effect relationship, like how sometimes we blame something for causing a problem within us, but the problem is not that's not what caused it. It just seems like it caused it, but anything could trigger that particular anartha within us. Maybe this triggers it more easily, but anything can trigger arrogance in a person who's inclined, who has a need to be adored. Yeah. Chanting japa can cause arrogance because then you think, I'm the best japa chanter in ISKCON. Prabhus, you have no idea how good my rounds are. If you knew how good my rounds are, you'd all be touching my feet. And maybe someday I will be merciful to you and show you how to chant, all you hopeless japa chanters. Yeah, so you could think like that, right? You're thinking, well, nobody's going to think like that, but some degree of that thinking is not uncommon, not to that extent, but I'm a better japa chanter than others. I wonder if others are having all these deep realizations that I'm having while I'm chanting. They probably aren't. They probably don't know how to chant. They're probably just making offenses. I mean, just go to the temple and look at how they're chanting. Looks like their heads are spinning around the universe. It seems like I'm the only one that's really focused. I mean, if you're an arrogant person, you're chanting japa, and your japa is creating more arrogance. So I wouldn't blame necessarily anything on the cause of arrogance. I would say that arrogance is a need it's a human need to be appreciated, but it gets out of hand. And then you will look for every opportunity to inflate your ego. Right? Have we seen it? You cook nice prasadam, everyone is appreciating you. Your head goes up in the clouds. You dress the deities, everyone's appreciating your head's in the clouds. It's like, anything can put your head in the clouds, right? If that's what you need, if that's what you're looking for. So, I don't know the specifics of this person and so forth. This is a general answer. Self-care can turn into selfishness. It can turn into anything. It just depends It depends on your own consciousness. But I would hope, as a sincere devotee, that your desire is to please Guru and Krishna, so that whatever you do would only facilitate that and enhance that. That would be the hope and the understanding, right? Like, if somebody gives me $1 million, would that cause me to be proud? Good, could be. I didn't do anything to get it. Someone just gave it to me. Now I'm walking around. I'm a millionaire. I'm going to buy myself the latest, Mercedes 920, 100,000 euro car or whatever. Okay. But we would expect that if you're a sincere devotee, you would have $1 million today and be broke tomorrow because you spent it on spreading Krishna consciousness. Because that's your motive. That's your mood. Okay. I have a comment from Damayanti. Breaking bad habits is possible when we accept. We need guidance and support. We pray for discipline. Yeah. Breaking bad habits on our own. Yeah. It doesn't work generally. Depending how bad the habits are and how deeply rooted they are, it often doesn't work. And so, yeah, it requires humility to say, I can't do this on my own. Krishna, help me. And Damayanti goes on to say, when the pain gets great enough, we surrender to giving up bad habits, to understanding our conditioning or addiction to stress or drama. Yeah. I think I've observed something that's quite unfortunate, that in the world that people cause themselves a lot of suffering, and they keep causing themselves suffering. And so what Damayanti is saying, for many people, the pain gets intense, but it's almost like an addiction to pain or something. I don't understand it. I haven't studied it. Or maybe it's like they're so used to the pain, they don't know there's anything beyond the pain. But what you're saying is true. For many people, when the pain hits a certain threshold, they say, I'm causing myself too much trouble. I have to stop doing this. But I think Damayanti, there are people who like to punish themselves. They think they deserve to suffer. So sometimes they may even seek out actions that are painful just to give themselves what they deserve. That's very unfortunate. But I am concerned about people who allow their own thinking to cause them distress, and it's almost like they can't stop. It's like it's a default setting. And have you ever been in that default setting where you're causing yourself distress and you can't stop thinking that way? I think self-care can heal that if you actually care about yourself, don't think in ways that cause you harm. Think in ways which will help you, which will uplift you, which will inspire you. And, a lot of times people get upset with us, and then we get upset back, and then it spirals into something unpleasant. But if we're thinking, okay, this is upsetting, but in order for me to live a grounded life, in order for me to execute my duties in this world and my duties to my Guru, I need to have some level of sanctity in my consciousness. And if I react to this situation in a negative way, it'll disturb me and it'll undermine my Krishna consciousness. So I value myself enough not to go there. It's just, okay, let it go. Let it go. They can say what they want. Let's just let it go. Because I don't want to put myself into that situation. So that's a good way to think, to prevent that. When the pain gets intense and you still don't give up, then, a little more self-love can help you realize that, yeah, I'm causing myself so much unnecessary stress because I'm retaliating. Chaitanya Dasi says, as one writer said, be your future friend. Do those things right now, which you will be grateful for in the future. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. You can look back 10 years later and go, wow, I'm going to thank that 10-year younger person that you did that. Yeah. I always think that way, you know, when we're at the end of our life. I always think, are you going to sit on your deathbed and go, damn, what an idiot I was? Or are you going to thank yourself? Well, I'm glad I made the right choices. And, you know, if there's any time to lament, it's, you know, that's going to be the worst time because you can't do anything now. It's all over. So, you know, you may know that some teachers use these kind of deathbed meditations to, you know, put you in focus. Like, you know, so imagine, you know, you're on your deathbed now. So what do you regret? And now you're not actually dying, so you have time to make things right. So when you actually die, you won't have those regrets. Right? Yeah. Damayanti says, we become peaceful and happy, only cured by forgiveness. There is, you know, there is many people who really have a difficult time understanding how, what more specifically, why they should forgive. It's like why would it be any good? Wouldn't it be actually bad? Wouldn't I be empowering this person? What they did is unjust and so forth. I think it's interesting to note, and unfortunately, I don't have all the quotes on top of my head, but Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur have explained in different ways that to cultivate bhakti, one has to be free of hatred. That's just, you know, bhakti is free of hatred towards other living entities, even the ones that did horrible things. And they don't mean to say that you don't recognize that they did horrible things or that they should even be punished for them. But they're saying the heart of the Vaishnava is pure. So the Vaishnava's heart, he's always a well-wisher, even for the most sinful people. He's a well-wisher. Did you know that they had after World War II, they had what were called the Nuremberg trials in Nuremberg. So like, I think 12 Nazi leaders or 21 or whatever. Maybe there were 21 on trial, 12 were sentenced to death by hanging. And there was so much hatred for them that the person who did the hanging, I don't know if he consciously did this, but he didn't do it right. So usually when you hang, you just fall and you die like that. But these people fell, died, broke their neck. They fell, broke their neck, but it didn't work right. So they didn't die right away. So they wanted, you know, it, you know, it's like horrible. One of the worst Nazis, he didn't die for 28 minutes while he was hanged, and, you know, it was, you know, excruciating pain. And like, so that's not what a devotee wants to see. A devotee might say, yes, this person has committed these war crimes. They deserve to be killed or deserve to be punished in whatever way. But their heart isn't like, I want to see you suffer the way everyone else suffered. But ultimately, their heart is, I want to see everyone go back to Godhead. So we have to remember that when we have difficulty forgiving, it is not an issue of justice or no justice, but we don't want to descend into this consciousness of, I want to see people suffer. I want to get back at them, because that's not the heart of a Vaishnava, and that is going to be destructive to our bhakti. So that's a thought that can help. Hare Krishna. Okay. So we have 5 minutes left. Any other questions, comments, doubts? This thing about forgiveness is sometimes a little difficult, because people will say like, well, how could you forgive someone like Hitler? And really, it's not like you're forgiving what he did. It's not like you're condoning what he did or writing it off and like, okay, just write it off, But what you're really doing is you're ensuring that within your heart, you don't hold on to anything which is tamasic, which is toxic within your heart, which is what hatred is. Now, we hate what he did. We hate the actions. We hate the actions of anyone who has caused harm to anyone. We hate that. That hatred is a kind of benevolent hatred. And we want to do, in that hatred, it becomes a motivation to do whatever we can to do to ensure that these things never happen again, at least with whatever is within our control that we can do to prevent that. So that we need to understand that forgiveness is not all encompassing, or doesn't have to be. Now, you have the example of someone like Prahlad who's praying for his father who tried to kill him. So, that's an extreme example, but it does show that there was no enmity in his heart, no anger, no revenge. You can't imitate it, but it does show the heart of a Vaishnava. And that's where we want to come to. So at least we don't want to hold on to vengeance towards anybody. We don't want to have hatred towards anybody. That's our philosophy. We want to be the well-wisher of all living entities, even the ones that we may have to condemn. And maybe it's our job. Maybe we're a judge in a court, or we're part of a tribunal or something, and we have to adjudicate issues. But it's not out of hatred, because then that hatred sits in our heart, and that's a contamination. So that revenge, forgiveness clears that revenge from our heart. So how you practically apply and deal with it may vary according to what happened to you. I'm not saying you don't do anything and you just hug this person who tried to kill you. That may not be possible. And that may traumatize you even more, and so forth. But eventually, we want to process it in a way where at least we don't have negativity towards anyone. Ideally, we should have positivity in a sense. As look, I think the example of Vasudeva Datta is interesting, because Vasudeva Datta is asking Mahaprabhu, can I take the sins of everyone on my shoulder? So you might think, well, why didn't he say, like, well, punish all the people who are really sinful and I'll just take the less sinful ones? So he's saying, okay, no matter what they did, I'll take the karma. Obviously, we cannot imitate that, but it does show this principle that there is nothing but love in the heart of a Vaishnava, right? Because otherwise they deserve to suffer, but he didn't want to see them suffer. So I think we have to, if a person has to be punished, they have to be punished, sometimes for their own benefit and or the benefit of society. But we don't want to go to our grave the whole list of people we hate, that we have revenge towards. Okay, I hope that helps. Yeah, there's so many nuances to this because it depends on the situation. And when we're dealing with traumatic events, then that's more difficult to process. And, forgiveness may be something that has to wait for a while before a person's ready to process it. So these are general principles. Okay. So it's time to chant japa, now that our hearts are full of love and compassion and kindness and generosity. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah. That's how you can chant japa. I have to go get my beads. And I will be right back. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We didn't even record this, did we? Spaced out, but it's on Facebook, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it would have been sad if it wasn't on Facebook. It was valuable discussion, I think. Okay, Koromani, I'm going to run away and get my beads. We're all ready to start.